God.
Can you see me?
No.
Can't see you, but can hear you.
Hmm.
You got hear any music?
It's all right. No music. It's all right, Bruce. I'm sure that nobody would be disappointed not be able to see you. Oh, we can see you now.
No. That bloody
Yeah.
3 different Apple devices. It won't work on any of them.
You look like an egg.
Excellent.
How are you? Good evening.
Yeah, fine selves. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
As always, we have a bit of a mix up getting our music. We can't see each other. We can now see each other. I'm hoping that my new Wi-Fi booster is going to get me through the rest of this podcast. And I've now got people shouting at me from downstairs. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 7.
Good evening, viewers.
Of the Malt Travel podcast. It's been a little bit of a while since last week. Nicholas is just pouring beer. I'm detoxing from a week in Ireland and drinking lots of black stuff. Bruce is looking very dapper in his Nike. Like he's been running or something, or he's joined the gym. Just silence.
Only sat in the pub.
So we will crack on because time is short. It is the 6th of November when we're recording this, but we are going to reflect back. Actually, feels an age ago now. Into July, in fact, the 4th of July, Independence Day, when we began our 450-mile pub crawl up to the northeast coast of Scotland and northern England. And so far, in episode 71, 72, we have covered the legs from York up to Aberdeen and then back down to Dundee. And we're going to try and finish off tonight. We just landed in Broughty Ferry last episode in 72, with Bruce making some very horrible comments about the Jollies Hotel, which is Broughty Ferry's Weatherspoons. In fact, we had some live recording of Bruce saying unpleasant things about it. The only good thing about that hotel was Winky, was the pigeon, wasn't he, Winky, who saved some. So it is worth going in there to look at that. Right, so let's crack on, gents. Are we okay, by the way? Everything all right? You're all surviving? Any fireworks going off?
Yeah, we have got
Remembrance weekend coming up. Remembrance weekend.
Oh, Marston's glass. Marston's glass.
Yeah. One thing that I'll give Marston's credit for. They do a commemorative glass every year now, and all the profits go to the Royal British Legion. So they're only charging £3 for a pint glass, £2.50 for a half pint glass. And I say, once they've covered the cost of the glass, I believe, then everything else goes to the British Legion. So I'm doing my bit.
Yeah, excellent. Right, a little bit of quick news, which is probably quite ancient now. We do often as well as talking about Wetherspoons and Samuel Smiths, we often talk about Brewdog, and they had a very bad end of the summer in that they had announced a £148 dip in their profits over the last 5 years.
£148 million.
Million pounds, sorry, and that tied in with the infamous Mr. Watt stepping down as CEO. But since and we did talk about they closed their tap down in Aberdeen, their showcase tap, and I think the York one's gone, hasn't it, Bruce? The York, is that there?
Yeah, they've gone long gone. The day they closed them all. Remember Gerald Ratner saying the jewellery was a load of crap, and everybody stopped by and they went. This was for certainly Gerald Ratner moment, wasn't it? And
but then bizarrely, last week they announced that they're going to be the new stadium sponsor of St Helens Rugby League Club. It was totally wicked, so they aren't really placing anything but yeah, it's going to be the Brewdog Stadium or something, which is bonkers. I mean that must be a fairly big. I mean, it would be Premier League football deal, but it must be it's a 5-year contract to name the stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people claim it's the best rugby league stadiums in the world. So it's a bit of a coup. So very strange.
They're obviously desperately trying to keep themselves the public eye because they also sponsor West Ham now. They've got exclusive beer deal for West Ham.
Yeah.
I noticed the presence in the supermarkets at one point. The big Brewdog. They're seeing less and less of those now, and it just goes to show, doesn't it? One comment. But I mean, the beer was vastly overrated, and what a ghastly individual it was. In fact, he's even made his own TV program now. We'll put up a big prize like a Dragon's Den thing, and I don't think anybody's showing it either. I mean, and of course he's got.
Anyway, let's move on. So the other news, I don't know if Bruce has managed to get into this place because he's a regular visitor to the Toon. I know we are going to cover Newcastle in a minute. You mentioned in the last podcast that Greggs were setting up their first ever pub which was what was it called now? I didn't. Yeah,
the Golden Flake or something.
that was it. The Golden Flake, which is apparently in a hotel somewhere in Newcastle. It's only there for a
It was in
temporary
Phoenix Department Store. It's in
department
Phoenix
store.
Department Store.
I've got to say though that the actual write-ups in the reviews were quite positive. Yeah. So I don't know whether it's apparently Full Circle providing the beers, and in particular they brewed a stotty, a kind of a dark ale, which was going down very, very well. So you're not managed to get in, Bruce, have you?
No, I mean, I'm a bit torn because, I mean, obviously, because of the nature of my work, I sometimes have to eat more Greggs than I'd like to, really, because you're down in London, central London, cheap options are out to come by. So, yeah, I'm afraid I'm show me Greggs loyalty app. I've got to figure I spend more time in Greggs than ideally I'd like to, but obviously, you could get through a fortune buying lunch in central London. So, going and paying 11 or 12 pounds for a roast dinner with a steak, bakes, and centerpiece has a limited appeal to me, but everybody says the service is great, the atmosphere is great, the beer is good, and it's. I mean, you know, it is. Yeah, just honoured. I mean, what I cannot understand about Greggs is why nobody looks at them and thinks, well, there must be money in this. Why don't we arrive one? Because I mean, it is almost a monopoly. I remember me and Nick being in Birmingham last year, and there was no bakeries anywhere, only Greggs. And so in the Newcastle city centre, I believe they've got 29 branches in the city centre, which is insane, isn't it? I think you can stand at the statue of Northumberland Street and see far from the foot of the statue. So, yeah, but it's very good. But I say, for me personally, because I eat more Greggs than I like to really.
You could find yourself in there. Well, we're looking nostalgic. We still have Wright's pies, so they're still our little. I
can't think of anything that will kill the head on a pint of beer worse than a greasy sausage roll or one of their pasties. I despise them. I mean, they're just liquid grease. And imagine having a bite of one of those and going to then have a pint. I mean, whenever I've ever been anywhere and complained that there's no head on my pint, the beer's gone flat, the first thing most people say, oh, it must have been something you've been eating. And I say it is a known thing that if you have a greasy mouth, then it can often kill the head of a pint. Can't think of anything worse than having a pint than having a Greggs.
I mean, that's interesting because, I mean, you look at all the beer in Wetherspoons, and it's dead by the time you get halfway down, but you look at the beige food they're serving, that's quite interesting, that. I think that could well be a case in point, couldn't it? Because that horrible food in Wetherspoons, but the beer just dies in the glass, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's not just the food. That's not just the food, though.
Very good.
Right, moving on. We have mentioned this story, but again, in between us, I think finished in the last podcast and this one, we had mentioned this, that Carlsberg, Marston. Well, it's actually not Carlsberg; it's Carlsberg on their own now, isn't it? And yet another hammer blow to the traditional British beer. In that the last pint of Banks's Mild was produced. In fact, Banks's full stop has now completely gone. And that's 150 years of history. So anybody again from the Black Country in particular, Banks's was one of very much a bit like the Tetleys of Leeds. And it is no longer because Carlsberg think they know best and have said, "Sod it, we don't need to make it there anymore. Nobody's drinking it." And of course, bang, it was anyway. So that was that one. We just a thing there. Well, as always, it's always quite interesting to look at our stats for the last month or so. And again, as always, it's quite bonkers the way that I have tried to get the 2-year stats. So we now have the United States way out as our most popular listeners. So 68% of the listeners to the podcast listen to the podcast in the United States. And then bizarrely, 11% of our listeners are in Brazil, which is, I guess it's only 13. It is weird. The UK comes in a lowly third. Argentina has bounced up this time into 4th place. Saudi Arabia in 5th place. The Barbados has come along as well. We still have one in Bangladesh. We only have one person in Ireland. I'm a bit sad about that, but I might change that because I've just come back from the Emerald Isle and had much crack in some absolutely stunning pubs, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we rightly, well, I don't know, we should mention this, but we've now got one listener in Israel as well. So we are truly multinational, gents. Truly global. Right.
Do you think someone's speaking those stats up? Do you think someone's
no, I think real ale craft beer in South America is on the up. So I can understand that with Brazil, and obviously in America, there's those that know beer and those that don't. So whilst the majority of the population are still drinking the beige coloured fizzy stuff, I mean, this is where the resurgence in craft ale came from. This country, really. The Americans took it on, started brewing craft beer, strong flavours, weird flavours, obviously with their choice of hops and stuff that they got over there. And then homebrew became a lot bigger. And the kit that was being produced was almost semi-commercial, semi-professional kit. And that allowed that then to come over here. And a lot of our little micro brewers that started 15, 20 years ago were actually using kit that had been produced or manufactured in America, or had been manufactured for the American market first and foremost. So in certain respects, we've got a lot to thank the Americans for, as it were.
Okay, we'll just do a quick beery highlight. I've got a couple. I know we've done more than this, and and I know we've had a couple of. I've certainly had a couple of epic tricks. I had a grand day out in Manchester some time ago, courtesy of my sponsors, Sky Sports, who gave me some free tickets to the Rugby League Grand Final. And we have featured Manchester in a previous edition, and we obviously didn't because the game was 6 o'clock, so we had a kind of an afternoon. So we began at O'Shea's, which I still think is the best Irish pub in Manchester. Forget Mulligan's or anywhere else. It was a cracking, as you can see there, if you're on YouTube, a very cracking Irish breakfast with 2 plump Richmond sausages and the normal Irish array, a cracking pint of Guinness. We then went on to the pub. It was bloody shut, so we got there at 12:05. And it said on its Facebook page that it opened at, I think, 11:30 on Saturday. Completely locked up, no lights on. In fact, there were quite a few.
Where did he go? What was he? Which one?
Peveril the Peak. Because it's just down the road. Yeah, so very disappointed. So we saw that. So actually, we then went on. To kind of make me a bit happier, we nipped into the Arndale and went to my little favourite micro bar in the Arndale. I'm still amazed how many people don't know about that. And it was in the Arndale. I managed to get my first pint of cask Boddingtons for probably something like 20 odd years. So I think, again, we mentioned in our last podcast that Boddingtons was being rebrewed by Lee's. It looked good. I've got to be honest, it didn't quite taste as, again, kind of how you remember creamy Boddingtons, the cream of Manchester. But it was quite nice. It was, as always, the beers in the Arndale Market Micro were very nice. He had about 3 or 4 beers on. I did notice it slightly gone up in price slightly, but it was all very good. And then I went on to 3 new places for me, and again, I'd probably recommend them. First, we popped into the new Victoria Tap, which is on the Manchester's Victoria station, which had a little bit of a refurb, hasn't it? Got a strange bubbly roof, and it's quite useful because the trams kind of all congregate there as well. I was trying to work out. Apparently, the tap used to be. I think it used to be one of those, whatever they were, orangey cafe places, whatever they were called. But I'm sure I saw men's toilets.
Leon.
Toilets over the top. But it's definitely worth a visit. It had a ruck of cask beers and loads of keg beers. It was already full of quite a lot of kind of Wigan and Hull Rugby League fans, but they were all drinking Bitburger Lager for some weird reason. And I'm talking about really going for it. Like, every table was full of pints of Bitburger Lager. But anyway, it's a bit dark and dingy inside. There's quite a nice little car. Well, it's not really a pub garden, but on the right-hand side of the picture there where the trams go past, you can sit out there. But it was all right. The staff were quite nice. We managed to get a seat at the bar, and definitely worth looking into if you're in that part of Manchester. We then popped across because there are now 2 bars in Victoria Station. Because there's also the beer hall, which was in, I think, this used to be the Marks and Spencer food place or whatever, and previously that it was the refreshment room. It looks very stunning. So again, the bottom picture, if you are looking at YouTube, and it's got quite an ornate dome on the top of it, a little bit like York's Tap. But I've got to say, this was horrible. It was ghastly inside, big kind of Wetherspoons type space. And though it says it has 2 cask beer on, there were no cask beer on whatsoever, despite them calling themselves the beer hall. Most people seem to be drinking Madry or Carlin. So we walked in and walked right back out again. But I had noticed, and if you guys have ever come across the Stray Cat. So just as you walk down through kind of Co-opville, so if you think about Victoria, it's where all the cooperative kind of buildings are. There's a big new shiny big place. Then there's also the co-op municipal buildings, the bank buildings, the trading building. There's a big square. And in the middle of that square is this little bar called Stray Cats, which actually is a Cloudwater brewery. And it's fantastic. Again, if you look at the picture there, that's in the square. It's a beautiful little square in Manchester.
Oh,
You've got quite a lot of buildings around you, but it's quite pleasant. And the beer was very nice. Three cask beers, probably about 12 keg beers on. Quite a nice mixture of clientele in there. So definitely worth. It's a bit out of the way. You've got to kind of know where it is. But it's 5 minutes, if that, from the Victoria Station, from the Victoria Tap. So definitely worth going. We set off to Old Trafford. And of course, if you know Manchester, you'll know that Old Trafford is an absolute beer desert. It's the worst place in the world to
mm,
put a football ground, particularly when you've got
mm,
60 odd thousand rugby league fans descending on it. But
yeah.
thankfully, the Lancashire Cricket Club had put on a fan zone and they were serving pints of John Smith at £4 a pint. So they did a right
Oh,
trade, actually. Just had a little bit, just cordoned off. Yeah, Nicholas pulling his face. But listen, there was nothing else available in Old Trafford. There's no other pubs, and even the security laugh were all laughing. I think
crikey.
there's a Premier
Well,
Inn that you can go in.
Salford Keys isn't too far away from there, is it?
But even then,
About 10
what's
minutes walk
there?
to Salford Keys.
There's a
There's a couple of pubs.
yeah, but they're like the harvesters, aren't they? There's a harvester, that French chain. And again, they'd serve out some. Anyway, there we go. So listen, you've also been off to Sheffield. Was this a single trip, Nick, or did you take partner Bruce with you, or was it just yourself?
No, just me.
Just
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Mm. Yeah, it was one of those Northern Sale flash sales, £2 there, £2 back. But it was a longish journey. So I only actually had a couple of hours in Sheffield and walked all the way up out of West Street up to the Bath Hotel and found it was closed because it was must have been a Tuesday again. Yeah, so he didn't
All
open until
right.
4 o'clock. So I had to work my way back into town. Told Bruce, went to the Grapes, Flynn's, as it is known, because it was owned by the local family. And whilst inside it is still a wonderful building, I'm afraid I think it could be on its last legs. It was cash only. They had two beers on. One wasn't great. It still has a good reputation for its Guinness. Then went to the museum, which is in Orchard Square. It's a Green King pub, but I actually had a free pint, so that's the Level Head. Anybody on YouTube, I had a pint of the Level Head there because Green King have got a new app and they're being very generous, giving free beer away. Also, 25% off in October for Real Ale month. So I had my free pint of Level Head, which I don't really want one pint of it. And then made my way back down to the Head of Steam on the way back down to the station, which is just up from the Crucible. Obviously, it's owned by Camerons, but it's in an old bank building, and they've done a good job in there. It's quite a Camerons place, bit of a beer hall, but the staff are always very knowledgeable in there. So I had one of these conlabs between Timothy Sailors and Northern Monk, I think, wasn't it, Mike? Which is on the screen there. It's Northern Rising, the cream of the North. So I could have stopped in there for 2 or 3 actually, but yeah, I had to get back down to the train. So it's a bit of a whistle stop. I was going to head down to Kelham, but I thought, well, no, because I'll just get stuck down there. Because obviously Kelham is a beer trip in its own right. So I thought I'd just have a bit more of a wander around the city instead on this occasion.
Bless. I noticed that Thornbridge and Theakston's have done a collab this month as well. So it seems to be a bit of a flavour, doesn't it, at the moment? All these traditional brews jumping in together. And then we'll keep up with the S's. And so, Bruce, you've also had a little trip to Sunderland. And actually, it looked quite a nice, you found quite a few nice little boozers. Somewhere you'd never think of probably going for a real ale trip.
No, we were slightly surprised in terms of the pubs. We forced to put them a trip out for Evie. And I've forgotten the name myself, Michael. You'll have to get me captions on there. The first big one near the uni was a big old Victorian drinking hall. Huge cavernous rooms inside. Big choice of beers on. This one at the bottom of the Brampton Bank. I've forgotten the name of it myself. Actually, I didn't realize I was going to bring this up. But again, quiet and spoken inside. Decent, knowledgeable staff. Doing this thing, though, where I've replaced the bar food with a sort of pizza street food vendor. So an awful where they do this, and people have the cardboard about. I find that quite irking in pubs. So now you go, they've scrapped their own food and get these people doing pizzas and there's cardboard stuff all over. That was a bit annoying. But while I was there in the loo, I noticed rather innovatively, they've joined up with 4 other real ale pubs. And on a Friday and a Saturday evening, they operate this bank bus where they run a bus up and down, just linking all the real ale pubs. because the Brampton Bank is quite a steep hill apparently in Sunderland. It sort of goes, it's sent up to the suburbs. Was a series of pubs, so in order to get to them, you can just jump on a bus, hop off another. The timetables actually of the pubs. So I thought, yeah, the bank bus is there on YouTube.
Good thinking.
So it was quite interesting. Yeah. And then the second one was a pub near the theatre again, which was absolutely fantastic. That's the picture one. Lots of Victorian screens in there. Again, great choice of beers, panel mahogany woodwork, a little bit of the theatre memorabilia there. Again, totally unspoiled. Neither pub was as cheap as you thought for Sunderland, because Sunderland, of course, is quite a deprived place. Town itself is interesting. We spoke to the landlord. It's been linked to Newcastle by the Metro now for a few years. And you're saying that's really good. And they say, well, no, not really, because before it was a bit of a dire bus ride to Newcastle. And since they put the Metro, unfortunately, in terms of pubs, a lot more people now can be in Newcastle in 25 minutes on the Metro. So they think it should be no benefit to whatsoever. And what was interesting was there's a cavernous, huge, vast Marks and Spencer's in the town centre, which is now closed. I mean, talk about the anchor of the town. So you've got this vast Marks and Spencer that's closed. And really, it's just devastated the city centre. It's a lot bigger than I thought, Sunderland. But you know, another place you have to admire. People are set with businesses, big.
It's not on the East Coast mainland, is it? So do you have to where do you have to get?
No,
Do you have to get
so,
up
yeah.
Darlington or somewhere and
You have to get off and change at Newcastle. There's a few Grand
right.
Central services, Metro.
Yeah.
But again, maybe around the time there, we did actually notice you could get a pint of was it Bud Light for £2 in a couple
£2.
So cheap beer to be had. Stanley
God.
Keel Square, the central place of the city, that had a big all-day nightclub going on, the big. We couldn't see Keel Square. People were lovely. I said I think there's 2 or 3 more really good pubs.
Yeah.
And it'd be worth to have a trip on the bank bus one night, because that must be one of Britain's most.
Yeah. I'm quite sure he wants to. I'm not quite sure he wants to Sunderland till 5 to 10 on a Friday night. But anyway, who knows? Who knows? Right, last little bit of our beery highlights. And just to say, obviously, since we last were on the air, we had our 40th Stoke-on-Trent Beer Festival, and because it's our centenary year, we went back to the good old King's Hall, which is named after the King, giving us the centenary status, our city status in 1925, and a good time was had by all. Unfortunately, it did, and I was volunteering for the 3 or 4 shifts. It's likely to be the last ever beer festival we have, because a bit like Camera, the cost of putting a beer festival on, the overhead logistics, and that the average age, literally in the daytime, was about 78. I'm amazed some people actually managed to walk in, let alone walk out, because literally they were coming in on bloody walking frames. Anyway, but as you can see from the pictures, if you look in, it was very well attended. So the night times were. I was there both as a drinker, as a volunteer, and as a musician, because we played the Saturday afternoon slot as well in the brass band. It's all good. The Lord Mayor, you can see on the pictures there, enjoyed himself. And our centenary mascot, Kelvin the Kiln, had a fantastic time dancing about as well. So it was really good. It was great. There was a fantastic beer. I think it was something like 300 different beers. Interesting, they had a keg bar, which was really, really popular. They had a rum bar, a gin bar. So in terms of, how you put on a good festival, it was really, really good. But, I mean, I was amazed that about 2 breweries, every brewery had sold them trade price. So you'd think with beer festivals, it's a good way to promote your beer, isn't it? But they said, yeah, literally, apart from 2 local breweries, every brewery they were having to buy the barrels at trade price, and therefore try and resell it. And it's a bit hard. It was about £2.50 a half was kind of what we were charging, fairly flat. A bit of difference for stronger beers. Interesting, we had nothing really stupid. So I think probably 8% was the strongest beer, and that was only a couple of those. And I think that went down quite well, because the people carried on drinking. I think some people go and drink 2 hours of 12% beer, don't they? And and I've got to say, as far as I'm aware, there was no issue, no trouble. So yeah, it's just a bit of a shame. It was his last one, but it was a fantastic event. Right. So let's just recap. So back in July, we had this plan to do our annual kind of get together. And we talked a while about trying to do a very long pub crawl. So we did. It's probably not the longest pub crawl, but it was certainly a fair distance. So we left York, we went up to Aberdeen. We had a few hours in Aberdeen. We then came back down to Dundee. Had a few hours in Dundee, went to cracking pubs in Dundee, went in two crap ones as well, but we did stay there. And then we were staying the night at Broughty Ferry. So in episode 72, we just arrived in Broughty Ferry. We dropped off our bags and stuff at the travel lodge, whatever it was, and then we'd made our way in with a very interesting local taxi driver who gave us a good lowdown on the thing. As we said, we'd called initially into the Jollies, which is the Weatherspoons in Broughty Ferry, and yeah, didn't have great beer in there. But then we found two little gems. One which we knew about. We were definitely always going to come to the slip. In fact, we'd booked ourselves in for a super very nice meal. And down on the Esplanade is the Ship Inn. It has been there, I think, for a while. It's been there since 1847. And it overlooks the Tay. The Tay literally laps the front of it. There's quite a nice seated area outside. It's a funny building, wasn't it? It was a funny looking building, really.
Yeah.
Very busy downstairs bar, but upstairs a fantastic restaurant-y bar-y area with a fantastic window. If anybody's on YouTube, we were about 2 seats back, but you could still get a fantastic view there over towards the Tay Bridge and the other Fife, I think it is on the other side, isn't it? A really nice array of beer. We didn't really do the beer justice, did we? Because we'd had quite a long day. But as you can see they're good looking pints that Nick and Bruce have got in their hands now. The food
looks like Bruce is on tenants again.
I don't know what that was. The food was fantastic, wasn't it? Really nice food, and huge portions. So we were royally looked after there, and as you can see there, Nicholas found all the snugs that were quite nice. So we can definitely say that if you're in that area, the Ship Inn was a very fine place to go for drink or for a meal. And then we found an absolute gem just round the corner.
Oh yeah,
a little bit tucked away really, is the Fisherman's Tavern. And we were a bit, because this is a Belhaven and therefore a Green King pub, which, as we said last episode, is very common in this part of Scotland. But we walked into a Friday afternoon jamboree, didn't we? Friday evening, sorry. It was absolutely rammed. Music being played. There were friendly locals who actually moved up and said, sit here, lads, come sit here. They were all drinking, they were decking back whiskies, weren't they? I remember there being, again, a fantastic array of beers in here. In the end, we actually snuck out the front there. As you can see, there is a little bit of seating on YouTube there. We did get told off because apparently after 9 o'clock, you're not allowed to go outside. Because as you can see there, it's mainly a residential street. So, but an absolute little gem, and it's maybe just a slight disappointment that we couldn't stay there longer, but definitely worth going there again. Apparently, this is was 3 cottages. It was licensed in 1857, refurbished in 2018, and they do offer camera discount. I don't think we'd used our camera discount, did we? Because I know it was a bit of a scrum to get to the bar and nothing else, but definitely a very nice couple of booze of them too, weren't they, gentlemen?
Great little town. It felt very much like a sort of Cornish working fisherman's town feel, not too twee, proper working town. But yeah, I'd like to explore quite a lot of independent shops. I'm sure there's other great little pubs to be had there. So yeah, definitely visit Newbury. If you get the buses every 10 minutes from Central Dundee, it's about £7 a taxi. There's even a train, it's about 3 minutes on the train. There is actually, I've since discovered watching that Planes, Trains of the Man on YouTube, there's actually a walking tour from Dundee city centre that takes you all the way to Broughty Ferry. Unfortunately, you have to go through the middle of the industrial dockyard where it goes a bit grim, but there's actually a walking tour as well, following the railway line. Definitely worth a visit, Broughty Ferry, and really quite unknown to many people, so definitely worth visiting.
It's funny, I saw a couple of people at work who were Scottish and they'd never heard of it. They didn't know where it was. I thought, you've got to go because it's got a lovely little waterfront. There's a little castle on the waterfront there. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously the Tay Bridge and everything. So yeah, really, really nice. So we are going to wrap up part 1 there, and then we're going to come back in part 2, talk a little bit about Edinburgh, and then our final destination of Newcastle upon Tyne. So we finished in Broughty Ferry on day 1. We finished drinking, I think, about 10:30ish, didn't we?
Yeah.
Am I right thinking? And we managed to get a taxi back, and I think we were on about 9 or 10 pints for the day. So it'd been a fairly steady day, hadn't it? We had, we had 4 pints in Aberdeen. We'd had about 3 pints in Dundee, and then we'd probably only had about 2 or 3 pints in 3 pints probably in Broughty Ferry. So it was a steady day. We'd covered some. We'd done, if you like, we'd broken the back almost of the travelling, because we only had to jump on the train Saturday, Dundee to Edinburgh, and then Edinburgh down to York via Newcastle. But to say, we will come back in part 2, and we'll tell you all about our trip to the capital of Scotland.